Good evening. Was that too loud in back? It looked a little scary back there. Thank you for coming to our School Safety Town Hall. My name is John Adams. I'm the Deputy Superintendent of the Cobb County School District. In a few minutes, I'm going to introduce some of the folks here from whom you're going to be hearing are real experts in school safety. But our mission here tonight is to inform you and educate you about the many things that we have done, are doing, and to the extent that we can tell you the details, we'll be doing in the Cobb County School District. Whenever I get to talk to our 113 principals, I make sure to tell them that the most important thing they do every day is to keep our students and staff safe. And nothing is near and dear to our heart than student safety. Before I introduce some of our speakers, I do see we have a couple of elected officials in the audience. I saw Joanne Burrell, County Commissioner, here. Thank you for coming. We have a great relationship with the county. Cobb County shares our commitment to student safety, and they are fantastic partners of the school district. And then I saw Board Member Scott Sweeney is here from East Cobb. Mr. Sweeney. Mr. Sweeney keeps us on our toes, me in particular, because he is incredibly intelligent and a fierce advocate for his schools. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the real experts here tonight. Although I'm 50 years old, and I spent my first 7 years as an adult as a Cobb County police officer. Got my first teaching job. I left the police department on a Friday and became a teacher the following Monday. I was a middle school teacher, and I got my job in middle school looking for a bomb. Someone had called in a bomb threat at Floyd Middle School, and I was looking for the device at the time and ended up teaching middle school. So I had just a 7-year career with the Cobb County Police Department, and there is not a better department, county police department in the nation than the Cobb County Police Department. That is still true now. But we have people to my right from whom you're going to hear, and they're going to come up individually and tell you about all the excellent things we are doing. But first and foremost, we have Chief Ron Story. Chief, if you'll wave. Chief Story retired as a deputy chief from the Cobb County Police Department, and that's a theme you'll hear, is that we do tend to cherry pick from neighboring agencies. And he was the #2 man for a long time at the Cobb County Police Department and does an excellent job running our 65-member department. One of the stats you'll hear that's in your handout is that we have 65 fully equipped, very well-trained school district police officers. They're not security officers. They are full-fledged, equipped, trained police officers. They have an average of 26 years of experience. An average. That is quite a bit. And 12 of the 65 are SWAT trained. So we have an incredibly well-equipped, I think the best school district police department in the Southeast, if not the nation, and Chief Story leads them very well. Next to him, we have Captain Wayne Pickett. Captain Pickett, another Cobb County police officer. He was a precinct commander. He was over the homicide unit with Cobb PD. He was SWAT team commander, hostage negotiations, tremendous background. And he's our #2 person. Next to him, you'll see Officer Phil Bradford. I lovingly refer to Officer Phil as Colonel because although he does not want me to tell you things like this and toot his horn, Officer Bradford, his first career was as an Army Green Beret, Special Forces. He is a retired colonel from the Army Special Forces. And that wasn't enough action for him, so he then had a career with the Cobb County Police Department, where he retired as a sergeant. He was the emergency planner for the Cobb County government and Cobb County Police Department. We're sorry, Ms. Burrell, but we did steal him away from you, but he's available should you need him. And so now he is our emergency planner and does a fantastic job. He has the unenviable task of thinking like a bad guy. So part of his job is to think of ways that we need to stop people from doing bad things, potentially. And then next to him, we have Lieutenant Mike Wilson. Mike was a precinct commander with Atlanta Police, and he was with the FBI for a time. And you'll hear him talk about some of the more affective, emotional approaches we're taking to school safety as well. So thank you for coming. We are videotaping this. This is going to be on a web page that we're rolling out today, dedicated to all the school safety efforts of the Cobb County School District, cobbshield.com. And you'll be able to refer back to that web page, download our handout, and within a few days view this video and some others. And we plan to do this probably about once a semester throughout the county. If we get to the point where you say, John, please stop talking to us about school safety, we've heard enough, then that's a good place to be. So without further ado, Chief Story.
While I have the opportunity to introduce you to a few other officers, Officer John McCraw is the Lassiter officer here assigned. And Officer Pete Saxon, he handles a lot of our other offices like HR, building in the 514, and he assists Phil with a lot of emergency management stuff. Then Officer Jeg, she's a Precinct 4 community officer that does a lot of community stuff. So I appreciate you coming. But to go a little further on, I was supposed to present to you the number of officers they had, how much training they've got, and all this kind of stuff. But since that's already been handled, we'll go a little further in that. In our officers, as you know, we have a lot of Cobb County officers working for the school system, myself included. I'm an Osborne graduate, Kennesaw College at that time graduate. Then I got my master's from Columbus State. But we have officers with SWAT training that come to us, crimes against children, like John worked years in crimes against children. I have 2 or 3 of those officers working for us. You know, whether it's special operations, whether it's community policing, any of that kind of stuff. Our wide variety of having officers who have experience, we kind of try to cherry pick people that adds to us rather than just hiring somebody to come work a school, because that's not what we want. We want mature officers that have experience, and hopefully we hire the right ones every time. But we try that. And we're always looking for other officers. But I am pleased to be with the Cobb County school system. I love working for the school system. I had worked with Cobb for 27 years, and I had 7 years prior to that. So starting in March, I start my 40th year in law enforcement. And I have no reason to leave right now. So I don't know how long I'll stay, but my grandkids go to school in Cobb. I got a son that teaches and coaches in Cobb, and I got a son that's a law enforcement officer, and I got a son that's a fire captain, and then a son-in-law that's a fire on the fire too. So pretty much the public service safety issue, which we hold very dear to us, and we strive hard to do the right thing. So rather than ramble on, since that was my part, I'm going to introduce Captain Wayne Pickett. Captain Pickett, like you said, came from Cobb PD. I've known him for about 32 years, I guess. He has tremendous experience. He was prior commander of homicide, Precinct 4 commander, special operations, SWAT, all that stuff. So I won't steal his thunder, and I'll turn it over to him.
Thank you, Chief. All right, we're going to get this working real quick. There we go. How we doing? I'm glad to see y'all, especially on a night that's getting dreary, raining. It means a lot to us that you take the initiative to see what we're doing as a department, as a school district. I did 29 and a half years with Cobb County. Cobb County Police is my deepest love. I guess when you start at 21 and do all that time, you mature as an adult in that realm. So I did a lot of things. I was the East Cobb Precinct Commander, so it's like coming home here. But I can honestly say, without a doubt, coming to the school district was a breath of fresh air for me. And I have never been involved with a group that is more dedicated and more backing for the safety of the staff, the students, and you when you're guests on the premises. 100% backing. Mr. Ragsdale goes way beyond. He is always thinking. He's always got those wheels. He's always questioning us, what we're doing. So it's a breath of fresh air for us, and we're very lucky to have him. Okay. Who knows what the Code Red? I know we have some. I've talked to some of y'all. I can recognize some. It's been to the Code Red drill. Code Red drill basically in the school district here is we have an intruder that is inside the school. Bad guy in the school. Chaos has come to town. What we do from the beginning, and I'll give you a little bit of headwind, what we do is with the staff itself, beginning in the middle of the summer, we have leadership and learning. What we do is we start teaching the administrators the philosophy of putting safety first for their staff and their students. They're taught during the summer, and then they see the video that we've produced. It's a nationally known video, numerous awards. But what they do is they go out and we go to their staff and teach them. If there's a reason or questioning reference to like this school, such a large footprint for a campus, 25, 30 something acres, then what we do is we will bring officers here to the school to go over and develop a safety plan. And I'm not going to take Bradford's, any of his air, but he'll go over this in just a minute. But what we do with Code Red drills, basically it is a lockdown of the school. We have an intruder in the school, whether it be an active shooter or just somebody that's unknown that's in the school that causes a threat. What we do with this is we come out to the school unannounced. We get about 15 officers and we just show up. We just pick a school. We do one a week starting this year. And we just show up to the school. We walk into the front office to the administration. They have no idea that we're coming. And I walk in and say, good morning, how you doing? By the way, you're under Code Red right now. What are you going to do? And so it is our way to do a snapshot or survey exactly what the school's ability or how they're going to react in a stressful situation, because there's no way that you can pre-plan the stress of an event such as an active shooter. I can't throw enough stress on people to understand or test their ability of how they're going to react. But we try to do that as much as we can. We come in stressful times and we just throw them under that drill. They have no say-so. They can't throw up their arms and say, I'm sorry, I'm not up to this today. You need to come back. It doesn't work that way, because not every day is going to be a good day for a test. So the unannounced Code Red drill is basically a snapshot of what they do, how they're going to react, how much time have they taken with their staff to train to do the right thing that we tell them that they need to do. Lock, slide, out of sight. Simple little phrase. Get the kids in the rooms, lock it down, put them in a hard corner, turn the lights out, shut the blinds, and be quiet and be still. More survivability in an active shooter situation comes with somebody that's behind a locked door. Simple fact. But what we do with our drills is we come out and we test the administration. Basically, they get a report card, a 2-page report card of what we expect them to do. Certain things like, do they know the policy for the Code Red drill? It's pretty simple. We're testing you for the Code Red. You need to know it. Do they call 911? Is the superintendent, assistant, Mr. Adams' office, or are they notified? Immediately we go into procedures. There's like 25 checklists that they have to successfully meet. If they don't, they're going to get a new drill coming that I'll just go over in just a minute. But we'll sit down after the testing of that drill is done. We sit down with staff and we hash it out. We pulling them in and we're asking them, why'd you do this? This is what you need to do. Kids that are in the cafeteria, What are you going to do if code red, if an active shooter happens? What are you going to do? Are you going to try to lock the door, or are you going to let them flee out the back door? Simple questions. What would you do? Well, if I can get away, run, hide, fight, we're going to run as far as you can, as quick as you can. If you're out on the playground, if you're not from the high school, if we're looking at middle school or elementary school, you got kids on the playground, what do you want them to do? Do you want them to come back into the school where there's an event going on, or do you want them to have a plan where there's a designated area where they flee to and go and position and stage until we can get law enforcement to them? Stuff like that. We just need to get a detailed plan for them to follow. So once we do this drill, if they do successfully, this form is filled out. The principal has to sign it. It goes all the way up through the chain of command through Mr. Adams' office, all the way to Chris Ragsdale, the superintendent's office. I can tell you if a principal has a habit of not doing too well, they get addressed very quickly. But luckily, what we have seen, the training that we're providing to the staff is taking hold. They're taking it very seriously, and we haven't had any that really have done bad at all. Most of them do exceptionally well. The principals are doing exceptionally well with making sure they have a plan in place and have their staff trained, and they know where they're going and how to protect the children. So our next test that we do, security checks, procedures for follow-up of violent threats, crimes received after normal hours. Now, let's go back, please. Go back one. No, you're missing a slide. Okay. We have, what we do now is an unannounced suspicious person drill. Give you a little history on this. A year ago, I'm sitting in my office checking reports, and I take a phone call from a parent. A parent is in a West Cobb high school, and he wants to speak to the boss. He wants to speak to the chief. Well, the chief wasn't there. I guess I'm the next one in line. So I answered the call, and he said he was asking me about procedures with visitors coming into the school. And I told him, well, you have to check in the front office, you have to get a badge, a visitor badge, and you get before you can proceed back into the school where you're going at the administration's directions. Well, he goes, well, that's fine because I've entered the school through the front door. I have walked the hallways of the school for the last 25, 30 minutes. He said, I've passed teachers, I have passed coaches, I have passed other staff members, and not a soul has asked me who I am or what I'm doing there. And I have no ID, I have no visitor badge, I have nothing. And you know, me, I'm going, oh, right, okay. Where are you at in school? He tells me. So I get on the computer and pull up the school's security system cameras, and I direct him to a particular area, and I ask him what you're wearing. He tells me I'm in blue jeans, a red sweatshirt, and whatever kind of hat he had on. And Lord and behold, who I see? I see him. He's waving. I say, proceed up to the front office. I have somebody talk to you. And so with that conversation, we took that incident up the chain from the chief to Mr. Adams' office. Totally unacceptable. We took a hit on that. Totally unacceptable. So what we do now is we will get an officer. Usually it's a Cobb County police officer. Not our district officers. We'll get a plain clothes. He'll dress nice, look casual. He'll look like a man of the, you know, what you would think is an active shooter or something like that. Just a normal Joe. And we send him in the school. We insert that person into the school. We sit him out in the front, go to the front door, see if you can get access to the door, see how far you can go inside that school before you're confronted by an employee, a student, a teacher, a janitor, an administrator, a principal. see how far you can go. And if you're confronted, BS your way, try to see if you can get past them. I'm just looking for the copying room. Something, try to get an excuse. And if they get stern with them, then they give up the tail. Okay, I'm a police officer, you're being tested. And we all have officers there that are following them. So they're just not turned loose into the school. School safety is a collaboration of everybody. It starts not only with law enforcement, it starts with the principals, assistant principals, administrators, staff, secretaries, teachers, janitors, students, everyone. Everyone plays a part in school safety. You have to buy into the philosophy that this is my school, this is my saving grace right here. I'm given the gift of having a free education, a great education provided to them, and nobody is going to interfere with that. Nobody. So, with that being said, everyone takes a role in playing for school safety. If they see something is suspicious, they need to tell somebody. So, in recent, we've started doing this test, and we have started sending officers in unannounced, and some have done very well. I can tell you right now, not this school, but one on the north end of the county, I had an officer got body slammed by an RTC instructor. I mean, it didn't take long because he confronted the guy. He confronted our officer, and the officer just, I'm looking for the biology room. Oh, come on, man, you're not even in the science section. And he hauled around. Well, it didn't take long. He was getting ready to get grabbed. So he did very well. But we found, with that said, us testing the establishment, as you would say, has been very well. We've done very well with what we're doing. So we're going to continue to strive to do more and more. All right. As you see, every day, our contacts, we talk to the DA's office, we talk to the GBI. I can tell you with the Terrorism Task Force, I talk to the gentleman there. I converse with him every day. Today it was 4 times. Reference to things that are going around in the county, things that are going around the state, and sometimes things that are happening nationally, trends that are headed towards schools. We work very close with all these agencies that you see up here. We have 2 liaisons here, Phil Bradford and Pete Saxton, who actually go to the weekly meetings downtown. So we're in tune with those, and we have people that we can call. Very easy and very, it's good to have someone, I want to say in your hip pocket, but it's close, they're close. So it's good to have that. All right. All right. Phil Bradford. You will find, how many know Phil? How many listen to Phil speak? Phil's a wealth of knowledge, and he brings his military life always. He is a very good communicator, very good on time, very good. He knows what he's talking about. He was just promoted to the emergency management specialist with the school district. He did it for 20-something years with Cobb County Police. And why look anywhere else when we can go steal them from the police department and bring them here? So, Phil?
Don't say steal, sir. Don't say steal.
Well, I did. Thank you.
Do we have any Michigan State Spartans in here by any chance? Please, somebody raise your hand. Okay. I know Mr. Adams' wife is Spartan. So I graduated from Michigan State University in 1974. That kind of dates me, but please forgive me for my maturity here. I have a master's degree in management from Webster University out of St. Louis, Missouri. Spent 22 years commissioned service in the Army. My last 10 years in the Army, I commanded a Special Forces A team, a Special Forces B team or company, and commanded a Special Forces support element out of Fort McPherson in Atlanta before I retired. Having a lot of fun there, and then I decided, because my undergraduate degree was in law enforcement, I decided I was going to be a real police officer, so I decided to go work for the county police. Spent 19 years there. Since 2003, I was in fact working emergency management type emergency response planning, and developed or helped develop all the emergency response plans for the county's critical infrastructure. So as it came time to leave the county, I sought the guidance and support of Chief Story, and he graciously allowed me to come over here. And I want you to know, I look forward to going to work every day. The people that I work with in the police department, at the central office, my job is at the central office and working with them. You're not going to find a more dedicated and intelligent and capable group of people anywhere. And I want to just let everybody know right now that the superintendent, Chris Ragsdale, and Mr. Adams are our biggest allies. If we, in fact, identify a need in every instance within their capability, they will, in fact, provide it for us. So, as we all know, we all have family budgets. The school district has a budget, so we all have to do the best we can. But, in fact, I just want you to know, I've been in a number of organizations in my life. This school district administration lives and breathes supporting the students, and you can be assured we're doing everything that we can to try to provide a safe and secure environment. If you look at your flyer, you'll see all the things that we do, and I'll go to the next slide now to start my stuff. We actually created the emergency management position back in April. So I had a mixture of duties to do. Now my job is focusing on emergency response planning. There's a number of activities that we look at. This right here is the emergency management procedures flip chart. All the leadership in the district gets this, because it's the leadership at the respective schools that dictate how that respective school is going to address the particular incident types that they must respond to, and train their staff and make sure their kids know what to do. I am confident if you were to go home tonight and ask your students what you do in a fire drill, they can probably do it in their sleep. All right, that's because they know what to do, they've been trained what to do, and they practice. And that's what we've been trying to do on all the other type of codes, type of incidents. We're talking about lockdowns, lockouts, bomb threats, hazardous materials calls, tornado drills type things. All of those things are in here. There are very specific checklists provided to the principals and the administrative staff at the schools. And this particular one is, in fact, under revision right now, and we're hoping to have it done, the revision done by the beginning of the school year. The slide up top, in fact, just address, I'd like to point out Officer Saxton. He was the former bomb squad commander for the county police. He's been working critical incidents and emergency management procedures for a long time. He and I work together and are focusing on those specific emergency response procedures to make sure that everybody has the most recent, current best practices, and those get pushed out to the schools. So that's what this emergency management procedures flip chart is all about. And I'd like to compliment Officer Saxton on the capabilities that he brings to the school district. Alert Point. How many of you have heard of Alert Point? Alert Point is basically an emergency management notification system. And I want to stress, it is not a standalone system. It is something that augments our current emergency management procedures. For without this system, we have a process in place for the administration to act on a particular type of incident. If you look over by the exit signs, there's that white box that's got a flashing green light. That is what is called an alert point hub. That hub, and this is the badge, this is the alert point badge on the backside of my ID, that with this badge, and the captain had addressed it, awareness in school is your first step in recognizing a potential threat so that you can respond to it. This badge allows every staff member of the school, irrespective of whether you're a teacher, whether you're the principal, whether you're the custodian, whether you're the cook in the kitchen, this badge allows a staff member, if you recognize the threat, you can in fact do one of two things. If the threat happens to be an incident where a child is hurt or needs medical attention, you can press this and get a staff assistant, and the staff can in fact respond to your location, because what this badge does is identifies who you are and, more importantly, where you're at in the school. There's a monitor up in the front office, and there's computer links to allow them to see where it is. So within a matter of seconds, the administration know that there's somebody asking for help, and they can get that help to that respective location. The most important aspect of this, however, and I'd like you to give it just some thought for a second, if something happened out towards the back of the school, or for that matter, if something were to happen in the concert hall, how long do you think it might take for somebody in the main office in the main building to be made aware of something serious that's going on here that might be life-threatening? How long do you think that might take? That is the correct answer. Too long. Because time is potential lives lost, especially if that threat that comes in the building is armed with a firearm of some sort. This alert point system will allow the school to, within a matter of seconds, assuming that the staff members with the badge are in fact aware of their surroundings, can activate that system, and those hubs start flashing red for a code red. There's an audio system that comes over the public address system that in fact will say code red, lockdown, emergency action required, locks, lights, out of sight. That process is what the kids are taught to do, what the staff are taught to do, so that they can respond campus-wide at the same time, irrespective of where that threat is identified on campus. Whether you're at the football field, whether you're in the concert hall, whether you're in the cafeteria, whether you're in a classroom, the entire campus gets notified at the same time. And by December, we are hoping to have all the high schools wired up with the system. Right now, about half of them are active, and we're in the process of training the staff and wiring up the rest of the high schools. We're starting with the high schools. The superintendent's guidance is by the end of 2019, we want to have all the schools in the district wired up. But I would just like to stress, this alert point badge empowers every member of the staff to take the appropriate action to safeguard the well-being of everybody in the building, irrespective of where you're at on campus. And it's a very powerful tool that I think we all can recognize. If the sooner we're told that there's a problem or there's a threat, the sooner we can take constructive action to protect ourselves. I've talked briefly about the emergency management procedures flip chart already. That is a very thorough document, and I want to stress again, we had copies printed up for the administrative leadership at each respective school. It is on what we call our Cobb County School District intranet, so anybody, any teacher or staff member that wanted to get a copy of it, it's available and they can print it off. It is under revision right now, and we're hoping to, again, have it ready by the 1st of next year. And then there's the Emergency Quick Reference Guide. I am a simple man, and I like one-pagers. Okay, I don't like to read too much, although I have to, and sometimes, as we all know, it requires us to change in order to improve. But what this piece of paper, this emergency quick reference guide, gives a brief summation of all of our emergency codes, and it highlights what to do in a code red, what to do in a code yellow, what to do in a code white, and it talks about some other fire and emergency first aid type things. And this is for every staff member at the school. Again, they can print it off, keep it in their cubicle, keep it in their classroom. We have had some very innovative principals and teachers. They have this posted in the classroom as part of the Code Red preparations. This is something that was just revised last October, and last October a year ago, so this is available to every staff member and obviously the students in their classroom to observe and read. Lockdown and lockout drills. How many teachers do we have in here? How many people have ever taught? Come on, all you parents, you teach your kids to do stuff every day. Okay. How do you assure that your child knows that what you taught them they can perform? It goes back to, okay, show me. I just taught you the specifics. Now show me you know what you do. That's what a drill is. Drill is practice. A lockdown drill is practice. A lockout drill is practice. And what we've tried to do is, the district has mandated there will be at least a minimum of one Code Red drill a semester, and we encourage the staffs at the respective schools to do as many as they deem necessary to get their kids and staff up to a certain level so that they can do this without any particular problems. Now, what is the difference between a lockdown and a lockout? Anybody care to? A Code Red is a lockdown because there's a threat in the school. Okay, so they lock down, they shut the door. Statistically, the best thing you can do when in a building, if there's I will use the term, an active threat, or somebody there to hurt you, is to get behind a closed locked door. Statistically, you get behind a closed locked door and he doesn't get in, he's not going to hurt you. All right, so that's what we stress in the schools, is if you're in a classroom, if you're behind a closed locked door, get behind a closed locked door. And when you do that, you cover the hallway door window, because all of our classroom, for those of you that have visited the classrooms, there's a window in there. We want to cover that window. We want to turn the lights off and give the impression that the room is vacant. If the room is vacant, then the individual will go on to the next room. We'll leave you alone. That's the goal. And then a lockout is what? As opposed to a lockdown. The threat's on the outside, so all of our elementary and middle schools have controlled access right now. So there are almost automatically, you could philosophically say they're already in a soft lockout already. But if there is a code yellow lockout, then in fact the staff is required to ensure those doors are secure, that in fact if you have any windows that have blinds or a means to cover the exterior windows, you do that so anybody outside cannot see on the inside. But other than that, it's normal operations. Because on a code yellow, we get notified, we're having officers heading that way. If the campus officer is there, he's out there checking it. All right, but the point is you maintain the security on the school, allow them to conduct normal operations, but the administrative staff are in fact checking those doors, making sure they're locked, and making sure nobody tries to get in. The more we practice, the better we get. The more proficient we are, the better we are. And that is the principal's call as to how often they do that. And we encourage them to take the time to teach the kids, use it as a moment to teach not only the kids, but the staff too, to make sure that they know what they're doing and they're proficient at it. Okay, next slide here, okay. Active shooter training. We've been talking a lot about active shooter training, but I want to stress here right now, we have had for over a year an active shooter video that has been shown to the staff that we've used as the means to train the staff. That video has won 4 national awards and 1 international award. So the staff members are obligated. We went around and actually gave that presentation the first year. This year, again, mandatory viewing on the part of all staff. It's very good. We specifically had some things in that video that they did wrong so that we can query the teachers, the administrative staff, and see if they recognize that what they did was not the recommended course of action. And by now, almost all of them are able to do that without exception. And that goes back to the quality of the video. Now, there's been a lot of concerns expressed by parents in particular about what are my students? My students haven't received any specific training. Well, I'm suggesting they have received some training. It may not have been to the degree that they would have liked. We have just now completed a separate video for elementary school children and a middle and high school video geared specifically for the high schoolers that should be completed at the end of this month. And it is our intention to try to get it out as quickly as we can subsequent to that, to have a video that will start the dialogue and ask the questions or reinforce what training has already been put out for the kids. And I am confident the videos for the elementary and the middle and the high school students will be of the same quality that we had for the staff. We do have the luxury of having a first-rate communications department that in fact has video taking, is that such a thing? A video taking staff and editors that produce high-quality stuff. Like I said, 4 national level awards and 1 international award. And the next slide. Okay, stop the bleed and CPR training. One thing that we recognize as part of our active shooter training is how important it is, and if we all reflect back on Columbine, are you all familiar or remember what happened in Columbine? That was, tactics totally changed for the police there. And now they're emphasizing and continue to refine and emphasize the need to incorporate first aid and medical staff to get to injured people in this kind of incident. Statistically, it's been shown in mass casualty events, upwards to 7 or more people's lives can be saved if we can stem the bleeding. That's what this Stop the Bleed program is. It's a national program that we've emphasized use of a tourniquet and wound packing to stop severe bleeding. We've got approximately 90% of our schools right now have had the training where the state has spent and dedicated money and provided those tourniquets and those kits to the respective schools. And there's an actual case in, I think it was an elementary school, where a child was not injured by gunfire, but she actually was on a playground and broke her arm, and the bone severed an artery. And one of those kits was available, and that child is up and running and is just fine now. So that's what we're talking about, a concerted effort to not only train but address other life-saving procedures and equipment, get those into the school, train the teachers. We have over 1,000 staff members in the Cobb County School District that have received the Stop the Bleed training, and we have a large number of individuals in the schools that have CPR. How many of you out here have had a CPR class or know how to give first aid or artificial respiration? That's something that can be used at any time, at home, at work, out in the economy somewhere. If you haven't had it, I would highly recommend you to try to sign up for a first aid class and become first aid certified, CPR certified. Thank you for your time. I will be followed by Lieutenant Wilson. He's our fearless leader there on the road, and came from Atlanta and is almost all-knowing. So please pay attention, and good luck.
Good evening. If I made the statement, I am where I am supposed to be right now, how many of you all would understand what I meant by that? Anybody? Okay. Well, I am where I'm supposed to be. And I'm going to give you a brief rundown on my background. And then as I get to my 2 slides, you'll understand why I'm part of those 2 sides. I was born and raised in Atlanta. Once I finished high school, I went to the military, decided I wanted to go in law enforcement. So I went into the United States Army as a military police officer. Got out, pursued my undergraduate degree, and then I took a job with the FBI. I was a special agent for 3 years up in New York, New Jersey area. Didn't like it. I hope I didn't offend anybody from New York, but I didn't like it. I felt an absence. I wanted to be back home in my community where I was close. So I joined the Atlanta Police Department. And there I worked my way from patrol officer up through the ranks of commander. So when I retired, I decided, I'm going to be a teacher. I pursued my master's degree in criminal justice, and I decided I wanted to become a teacher because I wanted to reach some of these youth that I saw so many being put in jail, so many dead, and it kind of touched me. So my passion was to try to do something to reach some of these kids in these school systems. My wife was a teacher, has been here in Cobb for 26 years. My children finished Cobb schools. I have grandkids here in Cobb schools. So I have a vested interest here in Cobb, with Cobb School District. So I've been with the school district now 6 years. This is my 7th year. And I've enjoyed every minute of it. I love interacting with the parents, with the kids, and I see the problems as an officer. I saw some of the problems in the schools that I was associated with. So when I got a chance to become a supervisor, I presented the chief story and Captain Pickett. Let's look and see how we can combat some of these problems in some of the schools. You can't solve it all, but you can start with some of them. And so, hence, we started the gang initiative. Now, that's just one small piece of the puzzle. What we decided to try to do is we created this unit called GRIT, and the acronym is Gang Recognition Intervention Team. And there's about 10 officers, no particular schools, not to say that some schools are worse than others, but we selected the officers based on voluntary basis who had the interest of doing it. We worked very closely with Cobb County Gang Unit. Prior to having this GRIT team, Cobb County Gang Unit would contact us, each officer at the school. Hey, what do you know about this? What do you know about this group? What are you seeing? And so we decided, let's have officers actually attend meetings, go to training, and really get into this gang problem, try to get a handle on it. And so we wanted to be in the schools and start with the recognition, teaching the teachers, instructing the teachers and administrators on what to look for, signs, reaching out to the parents. And so that was our way of initially starting the GRIT unit to try to, make some kind of impact with the gangs. The part of me where I said I saw so many kids, young men and young ladies dead and put in jail, and I saw so many problems, part of me started saying, what can I do, along with some other officers, to reach some of these kids in these schools and try to mentor them? Now, I take this program very dear. Chief and the captain will tell you, I'm very dear. I'm trying to get it to all the schools. We've gone to some high schools, we've gone to some middle schools, but essentially, as you're reading, what we do, and it's usually 3 or 4 of us, what we do is we select, we get the principal to give us those kids that are deemed the problem kids, that, these kids won't amount to anything. Those are the ones we try to get in an auditorium like this. And essentially what we do, we introduce ourselves, we try to identify as we're doing that, rule violations. Now, you're probably saying, well, why rule violations? Because in a school setting, a lot of times when we get involved, a lot of times it's from a rule violation. So we start off with got a young man here wearing a hat, rule violation. So what happens is we paint this scenario. You walk down the hall with a hat on, and the teacher says, young man, take your hat off. You keep going, you're disrespectful. The teacher says again, young man, take your hat off. Young man uses profanity toward the teacher, so the teacher contacts the administrator. Administrator, same thing. No reaching this kid whatsoever. So then they contact us. And when we come, at that point, it's not a criminal matter, but if the kid or the young man continues to disrupt the school, that's how we get involved. And so what we tell these kids at that point, when we get involved, and whether or not we get into a verbal conflict with them, or we have to actually put hands to say, come go with us, that's when all the cameras come out. But see, everybody missed what started the whole interaction. And so we try to tell these kids, your action will recreate a reaction. So if you know what's right and what's wrong, always listen to that side that says this is the right thing. And a lot of them, they'll raise their hand, well, yeah, we know that's not right. So we try to teach them, the first lesson is know the difference between right and wrong. The second thing we try to teach them is no matter how you feel you're treated, you comply. Because the name of the game, especially when you leave the four walls of these schools, we teach them out in the street is cruel. You have to learn to live the next day. We talked about all the encounters with police, and I'll be the first to tell you, not all of them are correct for us. But if you, and I'm saying you being the students is what we tell them, if you control your action and you do what's right, then you have a better chance of being able to walk away from that situation, going to your parents, if you feel you're mistreated, and let them fight it. Same thing with the teachers in school. It's not your job to be combative and try to be disrespectful and fight them. So that's the second thing we try to teach them. And the third thing we try to teach them is this is what it feels like. And what I mean by that, we actually bring some of them up, and some of them, they're actually being the police officers, and they have to deal with some of their peers that we tell to be purposely disrespectful. And to see the reaction of some of these kids, it's like, wow. And that's the point we want to show them, how it's not always, it's us against you all, but to see how it feels when we have to deal with someone that's not cooperative, now you see what it feels like. So that's the whole gist of it. It takes, we usually do it in 3 sessions, about an hour, 20 minutes each. I wish it was more. But we've gotten some good positive feedback from those sessions. So that's ongoing. If you have any more questions about that, we'll be glad to talk to you afterwards. And Mr. Adams.
I want to put a little perspective into this discussion, and we've talked a lot about active shooter, and that is at the forefront of all of our minds. But how many? I've got a teenage driver. How many of y'all have teenage drivers? Okay, give you some perspective. Although we should definitely worry about active shooters, the statistical reality is that your child is almost exponentially more likely to be seriously injured or killed behind the wheel than in a school for any reason. The most dangerous things our kids do every day probably is drive to or from school or drive to the store. So you can help us out at home by making sure your kids have driver's ed, wear their seatbelts. For the love of all that's good, don't text and drive. So just to give you some perspective, and we worry about that too. But at CPR, you heard Phil talk about CPR. CPR can save a life, and it has saved lives. We also have automatic defibrillators in schools that have saved multiple lives, adults and students. And then our health and PE classes, which students are required to take to graduate, give them some training on first aid and CPR. So we do some of that as well, too. We try to take, as you can see, a comprehensive approach, and it's not all law enforcement. Our counselors are also focusing more, counselors and social workers, on the affective side, and also doing more and more every day to try to identify and reach students who might be at risk for committing some sort of act. So if we can, obviously, if we can prevent something or reach a child before it reaches that crisis point, then that is certainly time well spent. So we look at that as well. Essentially in Cobb, we're open to any suggestion. So I invite any of you that have any sort of suggestion to provide those to us. I'm going to give you my email address. You can email me at john.adams@cobbk12.org, just like the president's, john.adams@cobbk12.org. I read my own email, so you're welcome to email me with any suggestion, and I'll email you back typically within a business day. And so we don't dismiss anything, so we're open to any suggestion. And although we don't have money falling from the sky, this is the most important thing we do. And we will put our money where our mouth is. All right, to tell you one quick story. First of all, thank you for coming. And thank you for bearing with us as we roll some of these things out. But I think you can see that we're willing to do anything within reason, and that nothing is more important to us than safety of the students and the staff. In September 12th, we're going to talk about in 2001, just after 9/11. I had been gone from the police department for 5 years and was, by that point, an elementary assistant principal at Sanders Elementary School. And I have in my office, and you can't really see it unless you're behind my desk, but if you're behind my desk, you can look to the right and you'll see it. I have a framed drawing, laminated and then framed, that I think he was a first grader did for me a day or two after 9/11. And it depicts the two towers of 9/11 on fire and shows people jumping in flames out of those towers. And it shows fire engines, and there's a candy store that's on fire. And it's a horrible picture, but I have it there to remind me of why we do this and what the most important thing we do is. And that student, a day or two after 9/11, he knew that I'd been a police officer, because the kids knew that, because they like to hear stories. And I remember him saying, "Mr. Adams, what's happening?" And he knew, because word trickled out. We had actually encouraged kids to draw in art, and that's how we ended up doing that drawing. What happens if they come here? And of course, I gave him the textbook answer at first. Oh, that's not going to happen. That's a long way away. You're safe. It's never going to happen here. All of which is true. But he was persistent and kept asking me the question. And I finally said, look, that's not going to happen. But if it does, they're going to have to go through me. And that is the attitude that these people have, and that every employee, 15,000 employees from Chris Ragsdale on down, have in the Cobb County schools. We're not perfect, but they're going to have to go through us. So thank you for coming tonight. Drive safely, and you can email me at john.adams@cobbk12.org. Thank you.